Welcome back to the Kyber Collective. I'm one of your three hosts, Flowers, and I'm joined by Sig.
Hi.
And Annie.
Hello.
Today, we're tackling Obi-Wan Kenobi, Episode 5. Well. It's nice when you get to come back after a week and you see the new episode and you feel something like vindication. Literally in my notes, I have this picture from Parks and Recreation where Leslie Knope has this little slideshow prepared, a PowerPoint where she says, "You blew it, super hard, complete buffoonery. It's hilarious. You deserve it." And this is to everyone who was such a huge stick in the mud. Big, like naysayer about this show, and that they were messing up canon and they don't even know what they're doing and they hired all the wrong people. And it's like, well, maybe a little patience would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take some accountability. I had questions last episode. I had concerns.
Yeah.
But I think it goes to show that trusting the process is a good idea, and that, in the immortal words of Qui-Gon, your focus determines your reality.
Speaking of Qui-Gon.
Yeah, one more episode.
Oh man, yeah. He has one episode left to show his face, and if not, I'm gonna be pissed. But I thought we could start with first talking about your thoughts on this episode and how you thought it held up, and what are your first impressions here? What are any of your impressions, really?
It was great. It was unequivocally great. I'm confused by anyone who didn't think it was great. It was like, okay, it was everything that we wanted out of this series in like a little bow. Like it, for me at least, it cleared up concerns that we were talking about with Reva. Like I feel like, cool, I have a sense of who she is now. I loved what her character did this episode. I loved tying it into the bit at the beginning. I thought that worked. We got the Anakin and Obi-Wan flashback with the Jesus haircut once more. And the fact that was woven, like their whole fight was woven throughout the episode at each stage of their conflict in the present and in the past. Great. Loved it. We got Leia just like, oh, we need a small person. She's like, right, get me a ladder. I'm on it. Love her.
I know.
Still the best. It ended, we're going back to Tatooine. There's a little shot of Luke. Obi-Wan has fucked up so badly. That if you could have just dropped anything else, that would have been better. Worst thing to have left behind. I'm so stressed. But like the last shot of the episode was little baby Luke.
I know.
I'm so happy.
Yeah, and she's been to Tatooine. Well, I think it was more of a major like Bail Organa mess up.
Yes.
Mentioning Owen, mentioning the boy, mentioning Tatooine, like I don't know. Like you could have spoken in a little bit of code maybe, or
just I'm gonna see our mutual friend on Tatooine.
Right.
I'll go to your hometown.
I'm going to the middle of nowhere to see our mutual friend.
Exactly. Yeah, and
his dog.
Like mentioned Owen, and Reva knows who Owen is. She met him.
Yes.
Asked his name, and he was like, my name is Owen.
Could you imagine the alternate universe in which there's just another Owen on Tatooine, and that's the one Reva met, and then he just gets like beheaded in his sleep?
Oh no. Yeah, that would have been something. Not allowed to repeat names in the Star Wars universe.
No.
I really, needless to say, loved this episode. I saw the very first scene, the flashback on Coruscant. I saw Anakin's little, the back of his head with his silly ponytail, his little rat tail braid, and I had so much joy, and I couldn't believe it. And I think the juxtaposition that they had with that flashback and Vader's perspective, and alternatively Obi-Wan's perspective, and that there was an overarching lesson that was being told, and it was interpreted a few ways depending on who it was that the scene was focusing on, was so masterful. It was a nonstop roller coaster thrill ride of everything that I wished for, and it came true, and it was done really spectacularly. And I'm left with lots of happy feelings. Tala, I am sad that she is gone. I knew she was gonna go. You can't really build a character like that and not have them sacrifice themselves, unfortunately. But I think she was brilliant. She went out brilliantly. I am sad. I was sorry to see the droid go. I think I didn't know him for very long, but he seemed really cool.
Yeah, he seemed like a cool droid, that Ned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw on Twitter last night where Indira Dharma like said that at first she was a love interest for Obi-Wan. Then they like decided to do away with that.
Thank
Thank
God.
God.
Wow. Okay.
Nobody needs love interest.
Well, especially not Obi-Wan. Like, leave him alone,
Well,
man.
I think she was always gonna die.
Yeah.
So give Obi-Wan yet another.
Yeah.
Yeah. So give him someone else to love and
Oh
watch
my
die. Like,
God.
oh my gosh.
How many have there
Like-
been now? I feel like every year he like meets a woman and she dies. No
So
more.
depressing.
We need a different. I'm glad they didn't go with that plot line. It's so overused. It's so oversaturated for Obi-Wan.
Yes.
No. I think she was great. She had a single-minded focus. She was trying to do good. And then her last words were "May the Force be with you." And sometimes those words hit you super hard, and it really hit me
Yeah.
hard in this episode. Like, I think the last time I felt like that was in Rogue One when it was used, and I was like, oh God, this is painful. Leia being so... She walked in, she was like, yep, I'm gonna get a letter, I can get something done. Obi-Wan is part of the Leia Defense Squad. I could not be happier or prouder.
I mean, as he should be. He's met her.
As he should. Yeah, of course, yeah. The fight scenes, the choreography, holy cow.
Vader and Reva's fight was amazing. Like, I actually think I liked it better than the Obi-Wan Vader confrontation, because just like the way Anakin was using the Force, that he was just like, he was so terrifying. And I mean this as a compliment. Like, she just, you know, she sneaks up behind him, and because she didn't get him on the first go, you know it's over, but you're just waiting for it to be over. And I guess maybe the Obi-Wan one doesn't feel as terrifying because you know that they're both going to survive, whereas with the Reva one, you're like, oh, it was nice knowing you, girl. Like,
oh no, yeah.
And when he's like ripping the lightsabers out of her hands, like, oh, so good, so good, so creepy. It was really great, like Darksider fight choreography, because it doesn't look like Jedi. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say that you don't really see Darksiders fight each other in
Yeah.
live action very often. I can really only think of one time, maybe, when Ben was cutting down the Knights of Ren.
Yeah.
That's really the only other one I can think of.
That fight scene definitely felt both amazing to watch, terrifying, really satisfying as a fight. And it really reinforces that Vader is the one with all of the upper hand. He's not even drawing his own lightsaber.
Right, he was just playing with her.
Yeah.
He like even gave her a lightsaber.
Yeah.
At one point, he's like, "Keep trying."
Yeah.
You know.
I know. It was almost like humiliating her. Like, here, I'll give you a fair shot. Yeah. He, like, just the way that they choreographed that. I watched it a few times now because I'm obsessed. And just, you see his every single anticipation of her actions, every single thing that she was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
She may as well have telegraphed it, because he already knew what she was going to, like, he didn't even have to look sometimes to see what she was going to swing him with.
Mm-hmm.
And I love seeing that reinforcing of just how terrifying of a force Darth Vader is, including when he brought down that ship.
Yeah. Oh man.
Holy God! Like that was one of the best scenes I've seen.
Yeah.
Using the Force.
Him ripping that ship to pieces was fantastic.
Yeah, it was like he did it with pure anger.
Yeah. This is the Vader content I have been waiting for.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And then that little bait and switch where they end up flying off, and he just stares, and you can just feel him seething in rage, and he's already so angry.
Yeah.
Poor Reva, man. That's the point that she chose to go after him. I was like, dude, he's fit. I would not. This is not the point that I would select.
Yeah.
I still loved seeing Obi-Wan and Anakin's little duel, though. I loved seeing the master apprentice vibe again. I loved seeing just Anakin again. I said it in the last episode. I was like, I really want to see him. And I got to see him. All of my dreams came true.
Yeah.
And to be honest, what I was kind of left with was just, man, I want to see the prequel era again. Like, I just want to live in the prequels. I want to live in the past. I'm one of those people, you know? Like, that era is such a warm, comforting blanket to me. And I missed it so much.
Yeah, it was real nice seeing Coruscant again. I felt the same way when we got the opening shot of the younglings doing their little Force yoga right before it all kicks off at the beginning.
It's just a lot of it's been so satisfying.
Yeah.
I thought I could also bring up Reva's supposed demise. It's not really a demise, but...
No, I don't think so.
Getting stabbed in the gut with a lightsaber just isn't what it used to be anymore.
But also, this is...
No.
Is this the second time she's been stabbed by Darth Vader in the gut and lived? Because they did that parallel shot with her as a youngling. Did he stab her there and she survives by playing dead? Fine, I'll buy that. So now he stabbed her twice. Like, Vader has stabbed her twice. This, I mean, like, man, check your work. Like,
I know, and he just like kind of let her go again. I'm like, dude, finish the job sometime.
But also, apparently, Reva doesn't check her work because the Grand Inquisitor is like, I don't know. Everyone's getting a bit stabbed.
No one's truly dying from a stab wound except apparently Mr. Qui-Gon.
Do you think there was like a great leap forward in back to technology between the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones?
Actually, yeah. I've thought about this because I was like, dude, even what is her name? Ming-Na Wen's character in
Fennec Shand.
Even Fennec, gets all sorts of bad things happen in her abdomen area, and it's just like, well, we're just gonna fix that with some mechanical jiggery pokery. And I'm like, back to tanks seem to fix stab wounds, I guess. So like, you just don't. Do you really die? I mean, I think the only person who will really die is Qui-Gon, because you could be cut in half and still come back. Like,
yes,
you can just...
Darth Maul did a number on the believability of mortality in this series.
Yeah, I'm not too cross that he's back, but I am cross that the ultimate kind of like wound will not let you die. But unless you're Qui-Gon or you're Padme.
Yeah. If you're Qui-Gon or a woman, I think.
Yeah. If you're Qui-Gon or a woman, you're...
Although Reva's taking some for the team, and
she's like part cat at this point because she's got 9 lives. She's knocked down 2. She's still got 7 more stab wounds to go, I think.
Yeah, it's the Sith. They stay alive on pure revenge and anger.
Yeah.
They refuse to let go. They're like, I got cut in half. I don't care. I need revenge, and I'm staying.
We got to see the Grand Inquisitor come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, he only got stabbed in one stomach. He had 2 stomachs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to say that I guess Disney or Lucasfilm, the show, it did make me question my reality for a little bit. Because at first I was like, oh no, he's definitely going to be alive. But then the episodes wore on, and then she became Grand Inquisitor in the beginning of this episode. And I was like, wait, they've got to be punking me here because he has to be alive.
Yeah.
Surely they wouldn't go back on existing canon, not at this stage. But then he was alive, so good on them for, I guess, making me question my reality.
Yeah, I missed him. I really started to like the Grand Inquisitor. I don't know, I think it's his voice. It's fun.
Yeah. I enjoyed him, like, lecturing her. Like, both of them were just like, you foolish fool, did you really think that you couldn't pull a fast one on us, the Sith? And I'm like, guys.
I know. I was a little tickled at that because he's like standing next to Vader.
Yeah.
Like they double teamed this, and I'm like, I think you're overestimating how much Vader actually gave a shit.
Well, that too. Yeah.
He seemed very proud of this, but he's also just like, you're disposable to me too. Don't even make that mistake.
Yeah, I am, because I have raised concerns before about like having Vader and Obi-Wan showdown too many times is going to kind of muddy the impact of A New Hope. I love the way that they don't really come to blows at all. It's more kind of that out psychologicking each other, and that Obi-Wan basically plays on Vader's obsession and his hubris and all of it, and that's what defeats him, was I think a really nice way around it, so that they're not just like sort of shouting insults at each other and trading sword blades all the time. It was good. It was really good. And the parallel with him as a Padawan was, I mean, those parallels are so evident when you watch the prequels and then you watch the originals and you're like, I see how we got from point A to point B. So it's really nice to have it like in your face, like literally this was here all the time. But then also to have Reva say, like, where were you? You were his master. And have Obi-Wan confronted explicitly with that as well, which of course he has been torturing himself, but I think it's a very valid question for her to be raising.
I think it is. I think a lot of people who would know about what happened, who would know that Anakin went and did this, would be like, where were you?
Where were you?
Yeah. And it was a great glimpse into her frustration and her anger towards him, and how, like, what has been motivating her to do all of that she's been doing. I liked the little twist that she was the one hunting Vader and used Obi-Wan.
Yes.
Was trying to find Obi-Wan for the purpose of hunting Vader. That was really a really great choice, and a really great character choice, because it made everything feel more sensible to what they were trying to do with Reva. Like, I feel like before I was like, it's just a little too flat, a little one-dimensional, but like just this episode has flipped all of those switches, and it all came together really nicely.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, she turned out to hate all of them.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, I get it. I don't know. Like, I was like, it's either one or the other. Turns out it was both.
There is, since they gave us a flashback, I thought I would pick at it a little bit and pull some things that Obi-Wan said to Anakin in here. Because it all is just one big lesson, and with the varying results in the present day for this show. But Obi-Wan says to Anakin that your need for victory blinds you. And he also says your need to prove yourself is your undoing. And I feel like this is a really good reflection / intersection on Anakin as a character, on Vader, and on Reva. What did you guys think of the theme and the overall lesson of this episode? Because I think it's not just like for me, it's not just a lesson for this episode, but it's like it gives such a good insight to these characters and to Vader, and how this just carries through into the original trilogy.
I think your need for victory blinds you is particularly apt. Sorry, I'm trying to gather thoughts here.
Take your time. It's a big question.
Yeah. I mean, they both obviously reflect heavily on Anakin, and I also think that they reflect heavily on Anakin moving forwards into him as Darth Vader, but also moving backwards to him as a 9-year-old boy who was a slave child. Both the need to prove himself. I mean, there's a lot of kind of reading between the lines implications about what his upbringing in the temple might have been like, and what the weight of being the chosen one might have felt like for him. And
yeah,
he literally wins his freedom as a child. So an idea that you might then have to continually keep winning in order to move forward is a fairly kind of logical progression for him to make, but is kind of anti Obi-Wan's ethos and the Jedi's ethos. And indeed it is his undoing in a lot of cases. He's too fixated on winning that thing in front of him to actually see the bigger picture.
That's a really great point you made. It's made me think of perhaps Anakin's methodology as a child to his adult years, which was, I am here because I was useful.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing for, I guess, a kid to kind of, because like, yeah, it was because he was able to help, and because he won his freedom that he has a place in the Jedi Order, that Qui-Gon specifically requested him and would have done pretty much anything to train him. Yeah, like I feel like, there was more to it than that, but I feel like for Anakin that would have served as his ideology. And it clearly did carry through into his Padawan adult years. It's kind of sad, actually.
Yeah, I think if you take the sort of grooming implications of Palpatine's relationship with him to their fullest extent, again, seeking approval is probably something that factors into that relationship quite heavily. And then, of course, he needs to maintain approval as the right-hand man of the Emperor within the Empire. What's almost more interesting, I mean, I guess this episode kind of outlines Anakin's failings as a Jedi, but I guess the counterpoint is that it probably also outlines Obi-Wan's failings as a teacher, although the deck was very heavily stacked against him. And the choice, of course, was always Anakin's to fall.
Yeah.
In that this lesson still was never learned.
Yeah, it wasn't.
But he never found a way of actually conveying it to Anakin in a way that resonated with Anakin enough for him to understand and take it on board. And a lot of people died because of it.
It seems like Anakin was just always focused on power and the victory and beating somebody, and he was attached to that so much that it made him unable to like think of like the other ways to victory. You know, just using his head instead of his lightsaber, which I feel like Obi-Wan was trying to teach him. You know, there's other ways to win a fight besides brute force.
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan just keeps, you know, teaching him that lesson over and over again. He taught it to him again with the ship. Like Obi-Wan won that just by outsmarting him a couple of times. You know, he is still the Padawan in that respect.
He is.
It's interesting because I feel like that there was a little role reversal in his quote unquote battle with Reva, because it almost felt like a teachable moment for her in that she was going at this, she was coming after him, but it's not how she would have won. And he didn't even need to really defend himself, you know. I don't know. I felt there were some interesting parallels there because I felt like some part of this, because he's been thinking about this battle, this teaching lesson from Obi-Wan all day, and some part of it, I think the wrong part of it absorbed into his head.
I find it interesting as well that it's clear that Vader knew Reva was ultimately out there to kill him. He fancies himself someone who can predict Obi-Wan's every move, because he's like, oh, pull back now, we don't need to go any further, Obi-Wan will come to us. But Obi-Wan is the one who's much better at reading him, because he knows exactly what Vader's expecting him to do next, but then takes that one step further with that information. And he weaponizes Reva in a way that I think is both crafty and maybe a little bit cruel, because I'm not sure that he thought that Reva actually stood much of a chance. Yeah. But Vader doesn't seem to have fully grasped like the capacity that Obi-Wan and Reva might team up, that Obi-Wan might be able to very easily say, hey, you want to take Vader down? Have I got some information for you? I also need to take him down. It's almost a little bit silly to me that this seems to sort of take him a little bit by surprise.
Yeah.
Because he just never, he thinks one step ahead and then he just stops. And it's very Anakin. It's very Anakin. Like when you think about all of his choices in the prequels, you're like, that's my boy.
Oh, Anakin. It's nice to see something pay homage to a series in such a well-done way, because I feel like a lot of the things they did here was really spot on to the characters and to the dynamic that Anakin had before and what he is now. What do you guys think the finale is going to bring to us?
Qui-Gon.
Hopefully.
You really hope so. Please.
Yeah.
Please, Deborah Chow.
Yeah, I mean, they've been teasing it so much. Like, I don't know how they have to.
Yeah, they have to. Or I really will make that fan edit. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, no, like, I've been defending these people for weeks now. Like, you can't do that to us.
Yeah.
You made a promise. A promise, Deborah Chow.
Yeah. My one thing is like, because I know that Qui-Gon never really achieved a corporal form as a Force ghost, and he's more of a Force presence. I get the sense that maybe we won't physically see him, but I need them to change canon for this so that I can see Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon again. Like, dear God, please! It's been since 1999. Give him back to us.
Yeah, that would be great.
Even his voice would be fine by me, but his presence would require a Qui-Gon.
I do.
The big question for me is whether Leia and Luke are going to meet, because presumably, I think the implication at the end of the episode is that Obi-Wan has realized what it is that he left behind.
Yeah.
And so presumably is going to head to Tatooine, snappish. That's where Bale's supposedly going as well. So is he going to bring Leia?
Yeah, I think he'll have to, right? Like, he's stuck in the crosser, like, do I go and return Leia, or do I go back and do my duty and help Luke, who I know now is in trouble?
Well, one of the most interesting questions for me is like, because there's a very good argument that you could make. It's a cruel argument, but it was rescuing Leia that destroyed the entire network of people who were saving many, many Force-sensitive lives. We haven't seen the final outcome of that, but certainly their base is no longer usable, and one of their hideaways is no longer usable. Was it the right choice to go back to get Leia? Yes and no. would it be the right choice to then bring her further into danger? I mean, do you sacrifice one kid to save the other? Do you leave her behind and send her off with Haja back to Alderaan? Do you leave Luke? Because I'm not sure that rushing in, putting both children in the same place that you know at least one Darksider's going, and he doesn't know whether Vader has found it.
Oh, yeah, I'm really concerned. I think Reva having this is, she's going to have to die. I don't know what she's going to do with this information.
Yeah, I think she is going to.
I don't have the concern that she's going to hand this information over to Vader out of revenge against someone, but I do think there's a problem imminent here with her having this information at all.
Yeah.
And she would absolutely use it to her benefit. So in order to maintain the anonymity that the Lars family had up until their death in A New Hope, something has got to happen here.
Mm-hmm. And Luke needs to get the toy back.
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely needs to get his toy.
Stuff we know is going to happen.
Yeah, he ends up with it somehow.
Yeah, because the other thing is we know who's going to survive, which does take the edge off quite a lot.
Yeah.
And we know that Vader doesn't find out until much later. So
yeah, I think technically, I mean, we know everyone is going to survive except the new character, which is Reva.
Yes, who I think now probably has to die based on the amount of information she knows.
Yeah, I just want to point out that perhaps Obi-Wan's tendency of handing Leia off to other people to like take care of her is not working.
No,
because he did that with Tala and she got captured by Reva. He did that with Haja. It wasn't even necessary in the end, and he dropped the communicator. And I understand, but also I'm like, it's not working, man.
Yeah,
it's very true. She can take care of herself pretty much, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be nice, like he could just say, like, just stay here.
Would she though? I mean, you say she can take care of herself. She kind of can, but also she would like go throw herself headlong into, she'd just be like, where's the closest Rancor pit? I'm gonna jump in it. Like, who can I pick a fight with? I'm gonna eat something I'm allergic to.
I know. She's like, this place seems like a nice place to rest, and she ends up at Jabba's palace.
Yeah.
Like
she'll get herself out. She's a smart cookie, but I wouldn't trust her to stay put.
No, yeah, staying put I don't think is her strong suit.
He should just reprogram the homing beacon for Lola and then just give it back to her and be like, see you later, I'll catch up with you.
Speaking of Lola, people had a lot of problems with her figuring out the restraining bolt thing, and it was just too simple.
It's her droid, man. She knows what does and doesn't go in the droid. It's got like 4 bits. It'd be like if you had a little like favorite action figure and suddenly you had another arm and you were like, what's this? I'm pulling it off.
People seriously had a problem with that?
Yeah. They're like, oh,
I mean, the droid turned red.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was not subtle.
It tried to bite her. Yeah. She was like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Oh, look, there's a weird part in here that didn't used to be here. I know this because I look at you every day of my life and you're my droid. Yeah, I'm not bothered by this.
No, I was like, I mean, come on. I know it's a simplistic thing that Reva used to overtake this droid, but like it also has to be within a parameters that this 10-year-old can figure out and quickly get over with so that she can move on the plot.
Well, not just that, but like also Reva, I mean, you didn't need that tracker to work for that long.
Yeah.
It obviously worked long enough for it to get where they wanted it to. Mm-hmm. And I think the aim was for Lola to like go off and not be like, I don't think they were anticipating anyone climbing through the ventilation shafts.
Yeah, that's true.
Where the droid was hiding. So
it was pretty clever.
I just can't believe what people complain about. It's like, have you ever watched a show?
I think my funniest, like, I think some of these are kind of nitpicky complaints, but I think the funniest one, which is 100% trolley complaint, was looking at the scene where Hayden Christensen is Anakin again, and someone had commented like, I love Hayden Christensen, but Leonardo DiCaprio would have been a better Anakin. I'm like, oh my God.
What?
Are you kidding?
I was like, this argument is 20 years old now. You need to stop.
Ugh.
I know. I was like, I don't need to. No, I think Hayden was perfect.
He what?
That literally made me ill just now. Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yeah. I mean, I think he was considered for the role.
Thank God.
No, I know. And then George Lucas saw Hayden and was like, this guy's Anakin. I know. If our listeners could see the look on Sig and Annie's face,
yeah, that's it.
This is definitely a troll comment in my opinion. But
gonna be a no from me, dog.
One of the things that I have been wondering, because I'm seeing whispers of it, and whispers usually don't mean anything on the internet, especially not with Star Wars, because everything we always know is just a bunch of lies. But I'm hearing chatter of a possible season 2.
Yes.
And we've touched on this a little bit in the last few episodes, maybe. But I feel like, given what we know is left of this show, do you think a season 2 could work? And do you really feel like they're gonna possibly do it?
Oh, this is such a mean question with one episode left, because I'm going to go on record with something and then the next episode's going to come out and I'll have to be like, I humbly retract my statement. Doesn't matter. It's like when you go out and you don't have an umbrella and then it rains, but if you brought the umbrella, it wouldn't have rained. That's what's going to happen. Yeah. If I say, season 2 would be great, they're going to tie up every single loose end and it will be perfect. Yeah. And if I say, no, there's no way they could fit a season 2 in, it's going to end on the world's biggest cliffhanger. This question was mean, Flowers.
I mean, it might now.
Yeah.
I have heard rumors about them changing the end.
Yeah.
I don't really trust in any of those kind of rumors, but
no, I don't believe those rumors at all.
The vibe that I have really strongly is that, like, I guess the thing I compare it to is Stranger Things, which, like, season 1 was a self-contained, really excellent mini-series that could have stopped right there. It had a little bit of a hook of like, oh, what might happen next? But if it had ended there, fantastic, well-contained, well-written, single series.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I hate season 2, but season 2 is not as good as season 1. And there are high points, there are low points. I think it could work, but I also think season 1 is shaping up to be a sort of self-contained, really good miniseries that you could continue on with, but you wouldn't necessarily need to. And that has hedged my bets completely.
There's some interesting stuff there, you know, the saving force-sensitive people, like a force-sensitive underground railroad.
Yeah.
You know, and Obi-Wan could be a part of that from Tatooine somehow. It doesn't have to it sort of has to involve Vader, because it seems like Hayden and Ewan are both pretty pleased with coming back and the reception and all of that.
I mean, I would watch the Quinlan Vos adventure show.
Yeah.
It's even sadder that he's not in this unless he shows up next episode, because then it would have been an excellent springboard for the Quinlan Vos adventure show.
Yeah, it's perfect for them.
It is.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Quinlan Vos with a bunch of kids. Yeah. It writes itself.
Yeah. The world's saddest magic school bus. Like, it just...
So yeah, don't just leave him as a name drop.
Yeah. But I want to know what he's up to. Like, I think the problem that I'm running into is my vision of what Obi-Wan has been up to this whole time has always been very boring. That, like, he lived a quiet life on Tatooine, that he meditated a lot, and he finally got in touch with Qui-Gon, killed Darth Maul, stayed meditating in the wilds, learned how to imitate crate dragons, and then died in A New Hope. And it's so weird to me, the idea that he might have been, like, hopping on and off planet and, like, doing underground railroad pipeline stuff and, like, participating in networks. And it's like, it's not actually inconceivable. It's just inconceivable based on my prior assumptions.
Yeah, I would say that I was in the same boat. I think there's, like you said, there is some wiggle room if they chose to go in the direction. You know, clearly actors have loved it. Yeah. And clearly there's still a little room for things to happen for Obi-Wan to go back to being, you know, this eccentric wizard living in the Judlin wastes. And I personally think that this might just be a complete story. I don't think Obi-Wan Kenobi necessarily needs a follow-up. What I do think they could do is just build other shows off of what happens in this show. So, like, if you see Obi-Wan turn up again, that'll be like, he could be a side character, you know, like he could just turn up in something that's going on, or be like, yeah, we've gotten communication from blah blah blah. And Vader, I mean, I'm incredibly biased. I would take a whole show with Vader. I would genuinely just watch him stew in his egg and just be mad and and do things on the executor. And it's funny because my mom and I have been watching the show together, and she's like, "So what are they going to do afterwards?" And I want to see more of or Vader, but he's going to be dead in the originals, and I guess there's no more he's going to be done in the show. And then she's like, no, but it's Darth Vader. Like, they can just make another show. They're going to keep making more things with him. I was like, you're right. Like, they absolutely could go in many directions if they wanted to. Yeah. I'm in the boat of like, if we get one, cool. If we don't, I'm probably would be more. I'll feel safer because I feel like I would be worried of what they would do in a season 2. But if they want to follow up on the events of this show through other shows that they're not announcing, that's my favorite option.
Yeah, and I'm never going to say no to more content. So like, if it pans out that there's a season 2, that is the opposite of a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to turn down a season. I'm not going to turn down more opportunity to see sad Obi-Wan.
Yeah, but I do think the Jedi Underground Railroad thing is a really cool concept and a really good springboard for more stories that might not necessarily focus on Obi-Wan or even Vader specifically.
Yeah, exactly. I hope for more Jedi content, if only to, at the very least, only to kind of remind people that, in fact, committing genocide against them was not good, and they were good people and did not deserve it. Like, maybe just reaffirming some Jedi principles. I'm not really here for the slander.
They need a PR campaign. There's a lot of, Anakin was right. It was the Jedi's fault. And when people say that kind of stuff, I always just think like, well, they're all dead. So what else do you want?
Yeah. I guess I want content that's going to reinforce the understanding that dark side bad, regular Force user good, and there's no in between. You can't live in this in between where you're half light and half dark, and this is what the Jedi should have been, and they were just too strict, and they did this to themselves. Like, that kind of thing I kind of want. I mean, maybe they should just hire George Lucas again so he can just talk about this.
Yeah.
I feel like we're not going to get that. Also, probably because current existing canon has gone in 2 directions with this.
Yeah.
Depending on if you're focusing on the sequels or if you're focusing on like the Filoni stuff that's been happening.
Yeah. I think the waters have been severely muddied within canon now, to the point where I think it's a lot less clear how the Force works, which is very frustrating.
Yeah, going to the dark, or even just stepping your toe in the dark, leads to going completely to the dark, to where you can walk into an academy and murder children. Mm-hmm. That's where the dark side takes you. Having a little bit in that to make you gray, all of this good, but always having a little bit of dark, it doesn't work like that.
I'm sorry to anyone who likes Grey Jedi, who is our listener. I cannot stand the concept of them just because of what misrepresentation they're providing of the better option. And also, I just don't believe that they are possible to exist. So that's that.
Well, and I think the examples we have of, so there's 2 versions of Grey Jedi, I guess. There's the version of using both the light and the dark side, which is probably what a lot of people mean. But the other examples that I think we have are pure apathy or detachment from the Force.
Yeah.
So Obi-Wan at the beginning of the Obi-Wan series, who is unwilling or initially very, very reluctant to step in and save Leia. Again, it's unclear whether he would have stepped in to save Owen. And then Luke Skywalker in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, where he's detached himself from the Force. But apathy is not, I guess this is the thing, is, standing by and apathy is a choice in and of itself. And it's often a choice that enables the power structures that already exist. So if you do nothing, that choice can allow evil or the dark side to flourish. And the only way forward is to live in the light and actively choose the light.
Yeah. We could have a whole episode on this if we wanted. Just discussing Jedi tiers.
Well, I do think, I think the concept of Grey Jedi is probably one that's worth breaking down.
Yeah.
It's a decent idea if just because the world's been established, the rules have been established by George. And I suppose if there was a different set of rules, it would be different. But I think with how the rules are, it just doesn't really work for me, the Grey Jedi.
No.
Yeah, certainly in the way that the Force is described and understood in the prequels and the original trilogy.
Right.
Yeah. They're incompatible.
I can like very broadly understand the appeal of something like that, but I don't, like you said, like it just wouldn't function in the world constructed. And I also don't agree with it.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it was spurned on by video games, particularly the KOTOR games, because I think Kreia is like the ultimate advocate for Grey Jedi, and she's from Knights of the Old Republic too. But it makes sense within a video game mechanic because they literally have like a bar that's like light side and dark side, and you can learn dark side skills and you can learn light side skills, and it moves you along the bar, and like that's an RPG mechanic, but the world is not made up of RPG mechanics. Like that's literally a system where you can slaughter children in one quest and then like give money to the poor in the next quest and it will even out to 0. Like that's not how the actual world works at all. But I think that like can then cycles back into like fan culture and so on, and there are some like, I think a lot of the games and like games in particular, but also some of the Legends books probably embrace it a little bit.
Yeah, that's true.
And like, you know, if you're not, the one thing I will say is I do think you need to pay a certain amount of attention watching the prequels, and it's easy to maybe fall into the kind of trap of, because Anakin's a point of view character, taking his opinions on the Jedi as maybe a little bit more objective truth than they actually are. And that's normally the thing when I talk to people out in the real world when I have to about Star Wars. And they're like, they say something like, oh, but the Jedi were too strict. Usually when you kind of dig down into it, it's because they wouldn't let Anakin do what he wanted. But letting Anakin do what he wanted wouldn't necessarily be a good thing. It's just what Anakin wanted.
He also often did what he wanted.
Yeah. He got married anyway, guys. Like
he got married anyway.
Yeah.
He did what he wanted in the Clone Wars. Anyway.
Yeah, he was killing Tuskens left, right, and center, like, you know.
And he just got like a slap on the wrist, or just
not
like
even,
Mace
man.
Windu.
It was Mace Windu was a little suspicious of him, and that's the worst he got.
The worst he got was just like a sigh, a shaking of the head, and be like, okay, just move on to the next mission.
Yeah.
You know, don't act like he was like kind of bogged down the entire time. And also, Anakin fully had choices. Like if he wasn't jiving with the Jedi way, the door's right there, man. You could have gone. You could have done anything left with your life. Yeah, he could have left. Like I get really tired with this argument about Anakin and how oppressed he was. And I'm like, buddy, like every club has its rules, and if he wasn't with the ones that were in this club, he should have left.
I mean, like, I understand it. Like, we could go into the Clone Wars, whatever. Yeah. Like, I understand why he was disillusioned with the Jedi. Like, I understand, you know, what happened with Ahsoka. But that was the Jedi, like, for years just being manipulated by Palpatine. They had become what they were fighting. They really had. But it doesn't mean that the Jedi philosophy wasn't a good one. It just means that it was, Palpatine had corrupted everything.
Yeah.
It was just a slow and steady decline. And Anakin, he could have done what Ahsoka did and left and went on his own, but he wanted to be the best Jedi ever.
Yes.
You know? And okay, so he was having these bad dreams and he, you know, should have done this and should have done that. Yes, like maybe somebody should have noticed and talked to him. So Anakin was right all along, right? But no, like I don't feel like, it's hard getting my thoughts around this. I'm sorry.
It's okay. One of my feelings about it is I feel like the only thing you hear is what they should have done for Anakin, but what did Anakin do for Anakin? Like, he had a lot of opportunity and resources to talk about and do something about the conflict that was in him, and he never did. In fact, anytime Obi-Wan ever tried talking to him, it was just immediately shut down. So it's like, how do I tiptoe around this person? You kind of just let them be, and against maybe your better judgment, because you don't want to hurt their feelings. You don't want to make things worse. I don't know. I feel like we have to remember that Palpatine's entire existence, he crafted this long game. The whole purpose was to destroy the Jedi. There was no winning. The minute the Phantom Menace began, the minute the Trade Federation accepted Darth Sidious's help to take over Naboo, it was over. It was already in motion. Rant ended. Oh, we've gone severely off topic. Now we're quoting just philosophical for Star Wars, but it's cool that this show got us there.
Well, it's nice to see some of the like OG like Jedi philosophy back in this show. I mean, like Annie said, like Anakin, a part of Anakin was clearly obsessed with being the best Jedi. Almost like he was too concerned with victory.
Well,
that was his whole deal, was just being the most powerful being in the universe. That was just, and like, I don't think that he could let go of that, I guess, fame that came with being a Jedi. He was the poster boy of the movement, and he could not let that go.
Yeah. Well, and he's also like he's not in meaningful ways, he's not committed to the Jedi Order. I mean, if someone says to you, like, look, when you live here, these are the values we abide by, and then you proceed to not abide by those values, but claim that the people aren't helping you, like, it is one of those things that goes two ways. There are many conversations that happened in the films that I think were non-productive for Anakin, like Yoda's conversation with him when he tries to say that he's having visions of Padme dying. And Yoda says, well, people die. Clearly that was not what would have been helpful for Anakin at that moment. But also, the conversation wasn't complete because Anakin left out information like, oh, we're married and she's carrying my babies and I'm worried she's going to die in childbirth, because he's completely ignored the way of life that he's claimed to take on board. Like, he wanted to have his cake and eat it too. And it didn't work, as those things often don't. Part of it, I think, is that he wasn't communicating well with the Jedi. Partly, maybe the Jedi didn't find a way of communicating to Anakin. Like, Obi-Wan could never teach Anakin this lesson. But Anakin wasn't listening on the flip side. Anakin wasn't communicating with them either. Anakin was doing his own thing, and he wasn't being open and honest about what was going on in his life either. And you can't ask for help by giving no information and then expect good resources. I mean, it's just a failure I'd say it's a failure on both sides, but I don't think it's necessarily a failure of the philosophy of the Jedi. It's that Anakin was not living by that philosophy, but was complaining about being held to the standards of that philosophy.
I've just and the fact that like Yoda wasn't able to like give him good advice, it's very true, but they didn't deserve being eradicated for that.
No.
That's been always my whole thing. People are like, well, the Jedi didn't do this, or they didn't take his dreams seriously, or whatever. And I'm like, valid, but that doesn't mean they deserve to like be murdered by the clones,
Yeah. On the flip side, with Obi-Wan, the question has always been, how do you cope with your Padawan causing the destruction of the galaxy and your people? And I think Obi-Wan's handling it about as I expected he would.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel bad for him.
There's a little bit of an irony in Obi-Wan when you think about, I mean, again, it all comes back, like, people are like, the attachment theory is the worst thing ever. This is why they're raised to be little sociopaths because they didn't get enough hugs or whatever. I'm very clearly building a straw man, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you have Obi-Wan, who's like, Anakin would never. I trust Anakin with my life. He is the best Padawan who has ever lived, and he would never do anything wrong. Well, there are so many signs that Anakin is about to do something really wrong. Yeah. And it's because Obi-Wan is attached. He's attached to the image of the Padawan that he thinks Anakin is. He's letting things slide because he's not looking at the world in the way that it truly is. He's attached to an ideal that doesn't exist. And that's what the attachment theory is getting at.
Yeah.
And so when people are criticizing Obi-Wan for not being a good enough mentor because he's not meeting Anakin's emotional needs or anything like that, it's like, well, part of that is actually a failing of him being able to see Anakin for the person that he is, which is a problem of attachment.
Mm-hmm.
Well.
Checkmate, losers. I mean, yeah, maybe Anakin would have been a better person with therapy, but I think he would have been a better person if he was not a Jedi. I don't think.
Yeah.
I think the council was probably right in the beginning that he was not well suited to the Jedi Order, but that does not make him a bad person. But then we would have no movies, so.
Yeah, no, and I go back to George's immortal teachings of Anakin's story as a cautionary tale. It all goes back to this on what happens when fear and attachment, as defined by the parameters of this universe, happen to someone who is extraordinarily strong with the Force and is a Jedi, and it's not good.
Yeah.
Well, we have chatted and talked and gone through every little thing about the Star Wars universe today. If you have any final thoughts on this episode, on these characters, on Star Wars, now is your chance.
Star Wars, good.
Very good.
Can't wait for Qui-Gon next week, everyone.
Yeah.
That's my final thought. I'm going to leave it on my manifesting. I'm manifesting Qui-Gon into episode 6. It's going to happen.
Yes.
Yes.
My thoughts shape my reality.
Yeah.
That's all for now, folks, I think. See you next week for the Qui-Gon Spectacular.
I can't wait. I hope so. Right. Thanks for tuning into the Kyber Collective. If you like what you heard, please give us a like, and if you've got something to say, drop us a comment below. Both of these things help make us easier to find for other fans and are the best way you can support us. If you'd like to keep up to date with our episodes, you can subscribe, and you can always talk to us on Twitter at Kyber Collective. We would love if you guys chatted with us on Twitter. Like, we're active there, we're popping, come on in. Grab a glass of blue milk or spotchka or whatever tickles your fancy and chat with us. Until then, we'll be back with another episode in 2 weeks. And remember, the crystal is the heart of the blade. The heart is the crystal of the Jedi. The Jedi is the crystal of the Force. The Force is the blade of the heart. All are intertwined. The crystal, the blade, the Jedi. You are one.